Alright, hey guys, Pax, welcome back to another Pokemon Pocket video. As the title states, I'll be going over the top 5 worst legendaries in Pokemon Pocket. It's been a while since my last top 5, so hopefully you guys do enjoy this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy this background footage as well as this commentary style format. So before I get into the video, I just want to go over the criteria in regards to judging the top 5 worst legendaries. So I'm going to be judging it based on performance and feature potential in the meta, how poorly designed the Pokemon card is, and lastly, I will only be focusing on non-promo Pokemon cards. So Mega Latias EX, you are spared from this video. But yeah, anyways, let's get right into it. So number 5. For number 5, we have Zapdos from Genetic Apex. This card has an HP of 100, basic of course, has 1 attack, Raging Thunder, requires 3 energy, 2 lightning, 1 colorless, does 100 base damage. After attacking, this attack also does 30 damage to one of your bench Pokemon. So that could definitely hinder you in the long run. Keep in mind, this did come out during the genesis of this game, Genetic Apex. And back then, the game was, of course, a lot more slower paced. No Cyrus, no Copycat, no Rare Candy, Incineroar or Lucario, those all come later. But even back in the day, I feel like this card wasn't really that good. There are far better alternatives. I feel like a better alternative is Electrode. Granted, this card is a stage 1, however, only requires 2 energy and has a 0 retreat value. So yeah, despite Zapdos only requiring 1 retreat value, Electrode might be more beneficial to run. Another decent alternative is Pincurchin. This card is a basic, has HP of 70, rather frail, Thunder Shock, does 30 base damage, requires 2 lightning energy. Flip a coin, if heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. Keep in mind, this was pre-Poke Center Lady, so status effects such as Paralyze and Sleep can just go relatively unchecked, depending on your RNG. And speaking of Zapdos, of course, there is the EX version, which of course, back in the day, if you guys remember, saw a lot of play, a lot of RNG, but far more fun and viable than this Zapdos. Nowadays, I feel like running this guy, you're essentially asking to get bullied, especially with the prominence of Cyrus, also Pokemon that ship your side of the bench. And yeah, with that being said, Zapdos takes the number 5 slot. Heading down to number 4, we have Necrozma from Celestial Guardians. Now, looking at this card, the energy requirement is somewhat insane. Not the worst in this top 5, but looking at it, requires 4 energy, 2 psychic, 2 colorless. Does 120 after attacking during your next turn. This Pokemon can't attack. Most times, I feel like you won't be able to attack with this guy your next turn, of course, but there is a way to counteract that, especially with Lyra and Fossil Pokemon. But keep in mind, upon release, Celestial Guardians, we didn't have Lyra just yet, so the only way this guy can attack your next turn after attacking is if your opponent does Sabrina for whatever reason. Yeah, 120 damage, rather abysmal, rather frail as well, and it really does suck because technically Necrozma isn't an Ultra Beast. Technically, it's just a legendary, so it doesn't benefit from Ultra Beast buffs, such as Lusamine. If this guy benefited from Lusamine, it could have been much more viable, but nevertheless, looking at it, it's not that good. You could potentially attack your second turn with Necrozma, keep in mind, but the build-up's insane, pretty much. So you can attack this guy your second turn if you go second, lead with either Mantike, Magby, or Pichu, Necrozma and Zeraora on your bench. Feed Necrozma 2 energy, 1 psychic, the other one can be whatever energy. Next turn, feed Necrozma 1 psychic energy, sub him in, use Dawn to transfer the energy from Zeraora to Necrozma, and just like that, you can do 120. Next turn, you can't attack. Unless, of course, you do get Lyra, so you can just Lyra and then sub a baby Pokemon in, and then retreat, just like that. Yeah, overall, not too impressive. Definitely top 5, but if anything, mediocre. It's rather mid. It wasn't really meant to be viable, but it could have easily been, in my opinion. Nowadays, you could run this guy with Gardevoir to get a bit of value, but at the same time, there are better alternatives, such as Giratina EX, doing that extra 130, as well as Giratina being somewhat self-sufficient. Ultimately, this guy is meant to be kind of like a late-game finisher, but again, depending on the scenario, 120 might not be enough. Heading down to number 3, we have Mew from Genetic Apex. Technically from Genetic Apex, because of the hidden Mission Immersive art. For the regular art, we did get this card in the next pack, Mythical Islands. This card really has no purpose aside from just being kind of like eye candy pretty much. If you're a huge Mew fan, back in the day, sure, run this guy, but otherwise, not really serving much purpose. So looking at Mew, HP 60, basic of course. Cyberport only requires 1 psychic energy, does 20 damage. After attacking, your opponent reveals their hand. So yeah, I'll be honest, this card gives very similar vibes to Looker. He'd be looking at your opponent's hand, yeah. But the main issue with this is that we already have a card that does that, aka Handscope, which is a promo card. So yeah, looking at Handscope, does the exact same thing as Mew. It's word for word, pretty much. So yeah, given this, not really worth running. Back in the day, even nowadays, of course, like, you're only running this because you like Mew, pretty much. Like, just look at this immersive, man. Because you gotta admire this immersive art. I really wish they do more of these. They could have easily done one for Series B for Mega Rising. Adding secret missions that give immersive full arts or even cards in general would be pretty cool. You may argue when this guy first came out, the game was vastly different, a lot more slower pace, so you could have seen a bit of viability with Mew. But at the same time, there were far better alternatives, such as, of course, Kangaskhan. Pulling up Kangaskhan, this guy used to dominate in the game. Looking at this guy, you can potentially get far more value than Mew, doing potentially 60. Granted, I mean, you could potentially do 0 as well, but ultimately up to RNG. Much better tank as well. So yeah, overall, this Mew card really serves no purpose. Really does suck because I'm a huge Mew fan, but again, look at this immersive. Really do love to see this. I love the kind of the Dick Mountains. Yes. But yeah, Mew lands solid in the number 3 slot. Going down to number 2, this is where it gets very juicy. This is where it gets mildly infuriating. And yeah, you guys can maybe predict what's about to come, but yeah, in the number 2 slot, I chose Giratina from Triumphant Light. This Pokemon is said to live in a world on the reverse side of ours, where common knowledge is distorted and strange. And this guy is definitely strange. If I would describe this Giratina, definitely just very distorted and strange. So yeah, looking at this guy, just looking back to the past in Triumphant Light, the previous month, Space Time Smackdown, we got this Giratina. Not too bad. I mean, sure, it's not anything noteworthy as well, but I mean, you could make this guy viable. You can definitely make this guy work. But next month, we got this Giratina. This is where Giratina fans lost it, especially me back in the day, because we were waiting for a very good goated Giratina card. Space Time Smackdown was mid. Next month, this Giratina was just absolute dog water. Look at this. So HP 120. Actually, for one thing, it is Dragon type. Keep in mind, it's been over a year and Dragon type is still horrendous. We are getting a Mega Rayquaza that is most likely Dragon type from the looks of it. So yeah, if you're watching this in the future, hopefully it's good. Keep in mind, I'm recording this at the end of the Paradox Drive meta, so currently we've only seen the teaser for Mega Rayquaza. But they better make that work, because Dragon type is a huge red flag in this game. Anyways, yeah, HP 120, basic. Crisis Dive requires 3 energy. 1 grass, 1 psychic, 1 colorless. This is rough, because looking at grass and psychic, for the most part, especially back in the day, didn't really have that many supports. Nowadays, both energy types have a bit of support for the respective archetypes. So grass does have LEAFEON EX, and if you're thinking of running LEAFEON EX alongside Giratina, it's not going to work because, of course, LEAFEON can only give energy to grass-type Pokemon. Of course, this guy is Dragon-type. Looking at Psychic-type, Psychic-type has Mega Gardevoir EX. That Pokemon only supports Psychic-type as well. So, yeah. In other words, this guy gets no benefit at all. You could pair it with Giratina EX, because again, going back to the past, after this guy's release, we finally got the Giratina we all deserved, Giratina EX. Completely revolutionized the game. Amazing energy support. And given that potentially your second turn with the use of Dawn, your second turn going second, you can get this guy fully built and attacking. The main issue is that after attacking, you're down to 1 energy. And if you discard a psychic energy, then you're basically screwed. You could potentially retreat out of this guy, but you'll have to leave. And then afterwards, this guy's going to be back to 0. So 1 and done, pretty much. This is basically a perfect way to describe this guy. Like, you just attack, and you're done. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, with that being said, this guy's more beneficial towards the late game as a late game finisher. So you might see a bit of viability, but again, there's far better alternatives out there. And overall, really not worth running. Just looking at this card just makes me want to throw up, I'll be honest. It's very sad to see, but again, the month after this, we got Giratina EX. Everybody was appeased. But yeah, Dragon-type Giratina lands the number 2 spot. Now, before we get into the number 1 slot, I just want to quickly mention an honorable mention. So for the honorable mention, we have Mesprit from Space Time Smackdown. Looking at this guy, I like his gimmick. This guy is very interesting, but overall, not really worth running. If you want to have a fun time, sure. Especially back in the day when it came out, it was somewhat viable. Not really the best, of course. I think I rated this like C tier, maybe even D tier. Yeah, overall, I like the gimmick. I kind of compare this guy to kind of like Exodia, because you have to get like a whole layout out, and you can potentially nuke your opponent's active, but ultimately, depending on the stage of the game, it might not matter too much. Late game, this guy could definitely win in your game, especially paired with Cyrus. But yeah, overall, as I mentioned, it requires a lot of setup. Requires Azelf and Uxie on your bench to do 160. Requires 3 psychic energy to attack. Uxie does 20 damage onto the active and also feeds Uxie or Mesprit on your bench. While Azelf using Psychic Arrow can do 20 damage to either your opponent's active or their bench. So there's a bit of synergy. You can definitely late game probably Cyrus and hopefully win the game. But ultimately, looking at Azelf and Uxie, they aren't meant to be doing too much damage. Overall, again, a very fun archetype. But especially in current day, just looking at the current meta, this guy is definitely not worth running. Back in the day, you could see a bit of viability. Looking back into Space Time Smackdown, Psychic type wasn't really the best as it is today. Back in the day, it was primarily still Mewtwo EX dominant, because keep in mind, you get Giratina EX a couple packs later, which kind of revolutionized Psychic type. But yeah, overall, fun, but could be rather annoying, especially if you can't get Mesprit out your first or second turn. Heading down to number 1, place your bets on who it will be. This guy's rather new to the meta, I'll be honest. It came out in Series B and is somewhat lore accurate as well, especially to the mainline games. And of course, number 1 is Regigigas from Pulsing Aura. I could go on a whole rant on how bad this guy is, which I'm about to do right now. But yeah, looking at Regigigas, I'm just going to state the facts right here. So HP 150, basic, has 1 attack, Giga Turbo, requires 3 colorless energy, does 100 base damage after attacking, take a colorless energy from your energy zone, and attach it to one of your bench Pokemon. So not too bad. I mean, your second turn with the right amount of energy support, you could get this guy out and attacking. But the main issue is the ability. Seal of Antiquity, if you don't have Regirock, Regice, and Registeel on your bench, this Pokemon can't attack. So even with energy support, this guy will be attacking towards the mid to even late game. It might take you the whole game to get this guy out and about, just running. Your whole bench is just filled with a bunch of Pokemon with abysmal retrieve values as well, and an average energy requirement of 3. So yeah, it's not good. The only real way to run this guy is using Alolan Muck, just pulling up Alolan Muck, as you can see. Negates the abilities of basic Pokemon, in other words, removing Regigigas from his seal. But even then, only doing 100 damage. Granted, you are feeding your bench, but still, I mean, the build-up for this guy is rather insane. And then looking at the meta, especially in the meta where Fighting type got a bit of a renaissance with the addition of Mega Lucario EX, not really worth running whatsoever. Also, keep in mind, looking at the retrieve value, pretty abysmal. There's gonna be a lot of circumstances where you are forced to Alima with this guy, just get rid of him. So yeah, it's not good at all. And I'll be honest, it is kind of lore accurate. As I mentioned before, it's lore accurate to the mainline games, because looking at Regigigas in the main games, this guy has the ability Slow Start. In other words, for 5 turns, this Pokemon's attack and speed stats are halved. There are ways to bypass that, of course. I heard Galarian Weezing is a good pairing for Regigigas, but the main difference between the two Regis is that the Regigigas in the mainline games, without the ability, is absolutely broken. From what I heard, just absolutely dominates the game. So they applied the ability to kind of balance Regigigas, whereas in this game, even without the seal, like, this guy's mediocre at best. So yeah, it's really sad to see, because personally, I don't know about you guys, but out of all the Regis, Regigigas is definitely my favorite. This guy can move literal continents, but in this game, struggles to take out at least one Pokemon. And yeah, with that being said, Regigigas is the worst legendary in Pokemon Pocket. I would love to see Regis actually get some limelight. You know, like, it's not too late. They can definitely release a booster set focused on Regis. They can very much do that to close off Series B. It's kind of like paralleling the legendary dog trio that came out towards the end of Series A, but instead of the dogs, focus on the Regis. I would love to see that. But yeah, overall, that's basically the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Hopefully you guys found this video informative as well as a bit entertaining. I try to be. If you guys agree or disagree with this top 5 list, let me know in the comments below. If I miss out on any legendary Pokemon, personally, upon doing research, I feel like most of them, especially the non-EX legendaries, are just mid. You know, like, they're the definition of mediocre. Like, you could definitely run them for the most part, but at the same time, obviously not able to keep up with the meta. As for EXs, most of them are somewhat solid, I'd say. There are definitely some one-hit wonders, such as Ho-Oh EX and Lugia. They're pretty good for like one meta, like they're kind of average. Afterwards, not that good, but even today, like, you can still see a bit of viability running them, especially in low to mid-tier rank, which is why I didn't really add them to this list. But yeah, overall, that's basically the video. Once again, hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help me out, both mentally and physically. And yeah, if you guys are new here, once again, I'll be covering more Pokemon Pocket content as we get more news. We should be getting a trailer for the upcoming booster pack sometime this coming week. So yeah, once again, stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's the video, and I'll see you guys on my next one. Peace.